Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about current events in sports, military, and business through the lens of leadership. And we have just gotten to the finals. We are coming into the finals of the FIFA World Cup here in 2026. We've gone from 32 teams in the knockout phases down to 2. The finals will be in New Jersey, although they're calling it the New York and New Jersey Stadium instead of MetLife. And so the question now is, how did Argentina and Spain get here? What can we learn from this path? I love what Coach Lionel Scaloni said for Argentina. He said in the win against England, he said, there was blood in the water, and we went for it. It's an interesting quote, but it is literally, clearly a leadership quote. It is a leadership theme and something that we can learn from, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. The semifinals was not about big goals or big tactics. It was about identity. Yes, you hear it from me all the time. I talk about identity. I talk about behavior all the time. I talk about confidence under pressure all the time. It's all coming down to this. But this is when the pressure gets to the highest as possible, what happens? That's what we want to see. That's what we want to learn for ourselves, right? Some teams become more of who they already are. And some teams seem to disappear. Okay, so we're going to look at 4 leadership lessons that we can learn from these last few games. And the first lesson, as you believe it always comes, right, is pressure does not build identity. It reveals identity. Okay, Spain, they're known as a defensive team. They're known as being suffocating. Right? They're disciplined. They're consistent. They make sure you don't score. That's how they win these games. And we look at what happened here the first game against Australia. Spain won 3-0. Against Portugal, they won 1-0. Against Belgium, they won 2-1. So they gave up 1 goal in those 3 games. And then France comes, who's supposed to be a very good offensive team. And Spain wins again, 2-0. Okay, 4 games, 1 score allowed. It's impressive, the consistency they are and how focused they are on being a defensive first team. It's very impressive, and they deserve to be in the finals. Argentina is a little bit different. They're kind of this team, and we weren't sure what's going to happen. Messi, supposedly the best of all time, but he's older at 39, and we just don't know. We didn't know, but now we do know. Now there's no doubt. They're the team that scores late. 9 out of 11 goals in the knockouts have come after 75 minutes of play. 9 out of 11. They came back against Egypt. They came back against Switzerland. And then against England, they come back against England. We know who they are. They're the team that always has a say at the end of games. Okay. England, let's talk about them briefly. They took the lead against Argentina. Okay. They played very aggressive. They had momentum. They had the lead. But then they changed. Again, identity, behavior, results. My IBR framework is very strong identity, have behaviors that match, and the results will take care of themselves. But then you had England that played very strong and aggressive and played well, and then they changed their behaviors once they had the lead. And then the results was they lost that game. They switched from what got them there to try not to lose. We'll talk, that's the next point coming up. But in this one specifically, Argentina had the ball 88% of the time after that goal. They switched. England changed. That's part of the problem. Pressure does not create who you are. It reveals who you already were. And in these biggest moments, Spain became more Spain. Argentina became more Argentina. Okay? England became someone new. And France, I don't even know where they went. Let's just leave it at that. Where did they go? Okay. And that's how we got to these finals here. The question here for you isn't how do I perform under pressure? It is who am I really? Who am I really? And will that person show up when it matters most? I talk about this often in the Marine Corps as part of the reason why I have this framework. When you enter the Marine Corps, everything's about identity first. They form you into becoming a Marine. They take away your identity and they build a new one in you. That's part of the reason why. On the Marine Corps, we have the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Our insignia is on our foreheads and our covers, not our rank like the rest of the branches. That's how serious we are about identity, because we know when things get hard in combat, it's the Marine in you that will be able to fight as a warfighter in combat. Because the civilian side of you, whatever that was beforehand, couldn't handle the pressure. But because you are someone different, that is how you get through. The identity leads through. It always starts with identity. Let's go on to the second point. And the second one is playing not to lose is how you lose. We briefly talked about England. Let's talk about it more. There's a lot of juicy stuff in here. England versus Argentina. Now, there's a lot of beef between these two. Okay, they've only played 5 times in a FIFA matchup in the history of FIFA. But there's been some of the most dramatic outcomes ever. Supposedly, one game got so violent that that's where the red card came out. I heard that one of the Argentinian players got kicked off the game, but he didn't want to leave, and he dragged his feet, and then he ended up sitting where Queen Elizabeth was supposed to sit on the red carpet, and supposedly that's where the red card came. So interesting there. Red card came because of the violence of Argentina and England. The second one was the one that most people do know about, is that goal by Diego Maradona, where supposedly he might have hit it with his hand. He hit it with his hand. The pictures show it, but the refs didn't see it, and he calls it that the goal was made by the hand of God. Okay, so England hates that one, right? Because rightly so, they got cheated out of that one, but that's the way the games were. There was no VAR. Probably a good thing, right? No one likes VAR. We've talked about that before. The other one is there was David Beckham. They showed him multiple times in the game. He's been ejected from this game before. He's lost, I believe, in penalty kicks. I think he won one off penalty kicks. There was a lot of hatred in England for when he couldn't deliver against Argentina. It was pretty much like demoted or like forgotten, like get out of here type thing. And so there was a lot there. There's also been allegations of vile racism between these matchups. There's chants about the Falkland Wars. If you've never heard about the Falkland Islands, there are these islands that are just outside of Argentina that have been controlled since the colonial English days. And there was an actual battle about it in the 80s. I had to study about this in my Marine Corps training because of the things that we can learn in more modern amphibious warfare and controlling aircraft, because I controlled aircraft as a JTAC with my Marines. But there's a lot of history on that, and people did die, right? A lot of things were lost. It was a real war. And the English still control it, and the Argentinians are obviously still butthurt about it because the land's right there by the territory. And so they still talk about it to this day, and there's chants going on. If you can understand it, talking about Diego Maradona winning, right, with that fist, talking about the Falkland Wars, talking about Messi, like it is a lot of pressure and talk and noise going on between these two matchups. And if you want to know more, there's an interesting article from the Wall Street Journal that published recently where I got a lot of this information. So the game has a lot in it, okay? And in this game, England took the lead. But then they stopped trying to win. They were focused so much on not losing because they didn't want this story, this rivalry is so big. It means so much to so many people. They were so scared of losing that they started adding in more defenders, dropping deeper. They stopped competing for the ball. And this is where the things changed. This is where that quote from the very beginning, what I talked about from Scaloni, came in. He says, there was blood in the water. And this means that they felt the English retreat. And they attacked the fear. Okay. It's essentially a military tactic. Right? Find that advantage, stick in the knife, and twist it, and go after the fear. And they found the fear in the English retreat, and they went after it. Argentina did. Both Argentina and Spain did the same things in all their games. Okay, they were playing to win the game. They were always playing to win the game. England did not do that in that game. And this is the lesson. Sometimes the safest looking decision is often the most dangerous one because we become complacent. Okay, we want to control everything, keep it tight, keep it here. I've seen it in basketball. I've lost basketball games as a head coach trying to just control the lead. It doesn't work. You have to go for the win. Okay, going for the win in the first place gave you the lead. Going for the win continuously is what's going to give you that win. Okay, in business, playing not to lose, what can it look like? Maybe protecting market share instead of innovating. Avoiding hard conversations instead of having them. Playing defense with your team instead of leaning forward, right? Leaning forward. The instinct to protect what you have is exactly the instinct that puts things in risk. Okay. What got you there was not going to protect the win, okay? It's going for the win. All right, you've heard it. Let's go on to lesson number 3, and that's same size, different hunger. And again, I'm bringing this in through my basketball lens, okay? And I'm going to compare right now Mexico and Argentina. My family's from Mexico. I'm Mexican-American. That game against England was painful to watch, We talked about that in the last episode. But when I compare the Mexican players and the Argentinian players, they're about the same size. They're a little bit more on the smaller size compared to American players. And then the English players are very large, right? But Mexico did not know how to use their size to their advantage. Okay? There was a lot of talk about like, oh, the English players are so big. They're clogging it up. We couldn't find any space. Okay? The Argentina didn't care about any excuses. They played so hungry. I would say that was the hungriest team I've seen the entire World Cup from start to finish. They played so hard. Every 50-50 ball, they were going at it. It didn't matter if the guy was 6 or 12 inches shorter. They're leaning in with their heads. They're trying to move around. They're trying to get something. Okay? It was unbelievable, the amount of effort, almost to the extreme. But as a coach, I'd rather have that extreme. Give it hard and I will reel back in. But I don't want to have to push you to go harder. Okay? Argentina was fighting. Mexico flopped when they got behind England at home. Argentina did not. Okay? Spain, they're more about composure and discipline and the defense, like we talked about that. But the big takeaway here is size, talent, and resources do not create aggression. They do not create intensity. It's the mentality. That is what creates the intensity. Okay? Two teams can have the same tools, but play completely different games. And this is a leadership choice. All right? I tell my basketball players all the time, use the size to your advantage. If you are really big, which is usually what people want in basketball, use it to mitigate scoring up close, to block shots, to make them shoot further away, to get rebounds. If you're smaller, use the size to your advantage. Maybe you're quicker, change of direction, change of speed. You can do that quicker. The bigger guys can't do it. They move slower. You have to use the size to your advantage. Okay, McAllister's 5'9". He was able to do that against England. Messi, 5'7", considered the best all-time soccer player, 5'7". He finds ways. He's so quick and nifty. He uses the size to advantage. Okay, how are you using your resources? That's the question on that one. And let's go into lesson number 4. Confidence comes from reps, not hype. Before the semifinal, McAllister from Argentina was asked about what is it like playing in another World Cup semifinal, and he said, "Hey, experience is a plus, but it doesn't guarantee anything." And he's absolutely right. Experience does not guarantee, but it does help. It does help fill your cup, right? CUP, confidence under pressure. I talk about this all the time. Confidence under pressure is a cup that needs to be filled. And it is filled through certain different ways, and part of it is through past repetitions, past experiences, past execution. We'll talk about here in a moment. The coach, Scaloni, also said that the team didn't feel the weight of responsibility as much as other teams. Why? Because their confidence under pressure is pretty full. How do you fill your cup? It's my core framework, CORE. Clarity, ownership, repetition, execution. They all have things inside of them. We're not covering it all right now. But what they're describing is that balance between repetitions and execution. Okay? Every time you execute, regardless of the outcome, you say, I'm going to do this. Before the outcome is ever known, you are giving yourself a vote of confidence that you can do it. And that builds up over time. Argentina has done this over and over in this tournament. They know they can win, no matter how late the game is, even if that means scoring 3 goals in 13 minutes. Okay? They know they can do it, which creates a very full cup, confidence under pressure. That's very powerful. England's the opposite. They have a history of just not doing as well. 60 years without a major trophy. They have decades of near misses. Their national rivalry against Argentina usually goes against them, right? The core, they've gotten better. The win against Mexico at Mexico was phenomenal for them. But when it comes to Argentina, there's something that gets in their head, and they found a way to choke again. And they just didn't quite have that confidence under pressure when it came to Argentina. And the lesson here is confidence is not a feeling that you manufacture before the big moments. It comes beforehand. You have to build it over time, including through repetitions, including through execute when the pressure is on, and building that vote of confidence, right? Consistency in behavior that's aligned to your identity, that's repeated over time, is going to eventually become your real identity. What shows up under pressure, okay? You don't talk yourself into confidence, okay, in the tunnel before the moment. You earn it through all the moments, the thousands of moments that comes before that moment. Right? Building your confidence under pressure, filling that cup needs to be deliberate. Okay? That's what I help people do. I use my background from the Marine Corps, from coaching college basketball, from being a consultant at McKinsey Company, from building a space hardware company, from doing the different things that I've done, my faith, my family, all those things. I bring it together and I help people learn how to be amazing, have a full cup, confidence under pressure so they can perform when the stakes are highest. That is the goal. So before we wrap it up and I go over the main takeaways, let me just give you my prediction. Who do I think is going to win? Sunday, Spain versus Argentina. Okay, so you've heard the saying before, defense wins championships. However, I've seen many instances. I think about college basketball. I think about Texas Tech and Virginia. I think about Purdue, Houston Cougars. Right, in championship moments, the defense got them there, but they couldn't find a way to score. And that's a challenge. And we're talking about games where like 68-72, right? Not 1-2. Like high scoring games relative to soccer. Soccer is a slow, very low scoring game. Okay. So who's going to have the edge? Is it going to be the defensive team that finds a way to score? Or is it an offensive team that finds a way to slow the other team down defensively? That's the challenge. Spain's identity. We've talked about that. Preventing goals. Right? 4 games, 1 goal in 4 games. It's unbelievable. Question is, can they score? Argentina, their identity is scoring late. Okay, can they do it again? That's the question. So I believe the odds are in Spain. I believe they're favored to win this game. I do predict a very tight first half where they got to figure each other out and do all that mess ups, and it's probably either going to be a low scoring first half or a no score first half as soccer comes. But I do believe that Argentina will find a way at the end of this game, as they've shown us time and time and time again. So I believe that Argentina is going to be the first back-to-back World Cup champion since Brazil in over 60 years. I believe it was 1962 the last time it was back-to-back with Brazil. And so that is my prediction, that Argentina will beat Spain 2-1. That is my prediction. So we'll see what happens. So here's our 4 big takeaways. The first one here. Pressure does not build identity, it reveals it. I've been hammering this over and over again. Who are you really? And you want to build your core, your cup beforehand, so it is who you actually are. Don't change who you are like England. Be the best Argentina. Be the best Spain. Okay, be that person. Second one, playing not to lose is how you lose. Hammered this as well. Right? That's where you make the mistakes. That's where you become complacent, or you switch, or your mind's no longer on winning, and then you don't win. All right, same size, different hunger. Gave the contrast between Mexico and Argentina. One team found all the excuses why they couldn't score. And the other didn't look at any excuses, but said, how can we win? And they found ways to use their size for their advantage, and they were so hungry. That was the biggest thing. The hunger of the team was unbelievable. It was the best, hungriest team I've seen in all World Cup so far. And the fourth one, confidence comes from repetitions, not hype. You have to build it. It has to be deliberate in how you're building your confidence under pressure over time. Okay, those are the 4 main takeaways. Again, pressure doesn't build who you are, it reveals it. Playing not to lose is one of the fastest ways to lose. Your resources don't determine your intensity. You do. Your mentality does. And real confidence isn't something you find in the moment. It's something that you've built on, 1 rep at a time, long before the pressure hits you. So ask yourself these questions here. When pressure shows up this week, it could be in your business, it could be in your team, in your own life, who's going to show up? Okay? Is it the version of you that's been putting in the reps, putting in the work? Or is it the version that retreats the moment things get hard? Okay, that's what we're talking about when we talk about be a leader. So that's the end of this episode of Be a Leader podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Please share it to someone who could find this beneficial. Please like it or give it a 5 stars. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, right? What's the biggest takeaway of this episode? What's the biggest takeaway of the tournament, of the matchups? Who do you think is going to win, Spain or Argentina? Why? I want to hear it. Let's talk about it. So thank you so much for watching this episode. And remember, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, be a leader. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Thank you. And until next time, we'll talk about the final next time.